I'm pretty sure I'm the only guy in history who managed to talk his way into a relationship with the quietest, most beautiful girl in school, the one who was battling some serious depression. I always figured that when I finally met her mom, it would be a scene straight out of a movie. She'd slide a check for $5 million across a polished table and hiss, "Leave my daughter." I even had my money is the root of all evil face ready to go. Instead, her mom just smiled warmly and said, "Thank you for saving her." Then her dad burst out from behind a potted plant, sobbing like a toddler. "5 million? Is that some kind of joke? I'll give you 10 million. You can't ever leave her." I just stood there completely stunned. So much for the rich family drama. Instead of trying to run me off, they were practically forcing me to become a kept man. "Leo Foster, you will shut your mouth right now." "Mr." Davison slammed his lesson planner on the desk, making the whole class jump. "You're the only one I can hear, from first period all the way to last. The teacher next door complained you're so loud, she can't even hear herself think." I hunched my shoulders, muttering under my breath. "Just means I have excellent vocal projection." "What was that?" I said, "I'm sorry, sir." I shot up straight in my chair. "But I can't help it. This mouth has a mind of its own." The whole class cracked up. "Mr." Davison sighed, adjusting his glasses. "Fine. If you love talking so much, I'll give you a desk partner who needs some quiet. Starting today, you're sitting with Charlotte Hale." The laughter died instantly. The room went dead silent. I followed his gaze to the back corner of the classroom, by the window. The girl sat there, perfectly still, her head bowed. Long, dark hair fell like a curtain, hiding most of her face. She looked like she was sealed inside an invisible glass dome. Charlotte Hale. She'd been out for 6 months. Today was her first day back. The rumor was severe depression. No one dared to talk to her. No one even got close. My knees felt like jelly. Mr. Davison? I don't think that's a good idea. What if I, accidentally talk her into being more depressed?" "Perfect. You two can be each other's therapy," he said with a cold smile. "She needs someone to bring her out of her shell, and you need someone to shut you up. It's a win-win." I wanted to cry. Under the sympathetic stares of my classmates, I grabbed my backpack and shuffled to the back of the room, plopping down next to Charlotte. "Hey," I started trying to sound casual. "I'm Leo Foster. Though some people just call me the mouth." She didn't respond, didn't even look up. I scratched my nose and launched into what would become a very long, very one-sided conversation. "Your eraser looks like a little block of cheddar cheese. The sharp kind, See that cloud out there? I think it's slacking off. All the other clouds are moving, but that one's just hanging out. I found 3 actual pieces of beef in the cafeteria's beef stew today. It's a legitimate miracle. I kept this up for 3 straight days. She never so much as flickered an eyelash. During a break, my buddy Kevin Miller pulled me aside. "Leo, just give it up, man. You've hit a brick wall. She doesn't even know you exist." I wasn't ready to quit. The 4th day, during math, I was bored out of my mind and started telling her about a dream I had. So I dreamed I was an old radio and my parents entered me into American Idol. Simon Cowell said I had a unique tone, but I kept accidentally picking up Spanish radio stations. I started chuckling to myself. As I was shaking with silent laughter, I saw it. Her eyelashes fluttered. It was tiny, like the twitch of a butterfly's wing. But I saw it. I almost shot out of my seat. Forcing myself to stay put, I leaned in and whispered, "Did you just—" almost smile. She ignored me, of course, but I felt like I just cracked the glass dome. During study hall that afternoon, I decided to press my advantage. "I've got a dad joke for you. Why was the math book so sad?" I paused for dramatic effect, watching her closely. Her head was still down, but I saw her fingers tighten around her pen. "Because it had too many problems." I cracked myself up, laughing so hard tears started rolling down my cheeks. And that's when I saw it, clear as day. The corner of her mouth curved upward. It was barely a twitch, gone in a fraction of a second, but I caught it. I whipped out my phone, frantically texting Kevin under the desk. "Dude, the iceberg is melting." His reply was instantaneous. "You sure she wasn't just having a muscle spasm for being so annoyed?" Jerk. I put my phone away and looked back at my silent desk partner, a weird sense of accomplishment washing over me. So what if she had severe depression? Under the constant barrage of Leo the Mouth Foster, even she had a crack eventually. Just as I was smugly planning my next conversational assault, the silent girl next to me let out the faintest sigh. It was so quiet I barely heard it, but I did. My senses went on high alert. What's up? Are you finally moved by my compassion? Or have you just now discovered my killer sense of humor? Slowly, she lifted her head and looked at me for the first time. She had beautiful eyes, but they were empty, like they were covered in a layer of fog. Just when I thought she was about to speak, she lowered her head again, returning to her default position. But I was satisfied. Progress was progress. From total ignorance to an eyelash flutter to a tiny smile and now a full-on glance. By my math, that was basically a declaration of love. I rubbed my hands together, ready to double down tomorrow. Kevin turned around and mouthed at me, "How's it going?" I gave him a thumbs up and a cocky eyebrow waggle. He rolled his eyes and turned back around. When the final bell rang, students started packing up. I took my time, stuffing my books into my bag while sneaking glances at Charlotte. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like everything was happening in halftime. As I zipped my backpack, she was already standing by her desk, as if she was waiting for me to leave first. I stood up and made a point to walk past her. In the split second our shoulders almost brushed, I heard a tiny, almost inaudible whisper, "Tomorrow." I whipped my head around. What? She had already ducked her head and was scurrying away down the other aisle. But I'd heard it. I knew I had. She said, "Tomorrow." I just stood there in the empty aisle, grinning like an idiot for a full minute. Kevin came over and slapped my shoulder. "What are you so happy about? Let's go." I threw my arm around his neck, practically bouncing. She said tomorrow to me. She's looking forward to seeing me tomorrow. You sure she wasn't telling you to shut up tomorrow? Get lost. I laughed and shoved him, my mood soaring. Walking out of the school building, the afternoon sun was warm and golden. I glanced back at the empty classroom window and felt something soft and strange bloom in my chest. "Leo, you know what you look like right now?" Kevin asked, hooking an arm around my neck and trying to drag me into a headlock. "You look like a peacock showing off for a rock." I struggled to break free. "You don't get it. It's called persistent, compassionate care." "Care? Does she look like she wants your care?" "Look more like harassment to me." "Bull." Yesterday, her eyelashes fluttered. Probably just the wind. And today, she almost smiled. Probably a facial twitch. I wanted to kick him. "You just jealous I found my soulmate." Back in class, Charlotte was in the same position as always, head down, staring at the desk like a statue. I took a deep breath and started my daily monologue. "So, you know my cat? Yesterday, he shredded my homework, then sat on the pile of paper confetti and gave me this look. Kind of like the look you're giving your desk right now. Very aloof. No reaction. And the lunch lady today, her hand was shaking so bad. She scooped up a ladle of green beans, and by the time it got on my plate, there were only 3 beans left. I think she's secretly a Tai Chi master." Still nothing. But I did notice something. The way she was holding her pen had changed. Before, she'd been strangling it. Now, her grip was a little looser. Progress. Time to bring out the big guns. Let me do an impression of our math teacher from yesterday. I clear my throat, lower my voice. "All right, class. This problem is simple. You just have to use your toes to think it through." I said the word toes in a ridiculously goofy voice, wiggling my fingers like they were toes. Puffed. It was the faintest puff of air. My head snapped in her direction, and I caught the ghost of a smile disappearing from her lips. It was there for maybe a 1/10 of a second, so small it was almost invisible. But I saw it. I nearly launched myself out of my chair. Grabbing the edge of my desk to hold myself down, I whispered, "Did you just laugh?" Her face immediately went blank, but the tips of her ears turned a faint shade of pink. Just then, Kevin turned around and saw the whole thing. The second the bell rang, he yanked me out into the hallway. "Okay, dude, I was wrong. You're not a peacock showing off for a rock. You're like one of those chanting monks who actually managed to tame the Monkey King." I raised an eyebrow. "See? The power of persistence." "I gotta warn you, though," Kevin said, his voice dropping. "Caleb Vance was staring at you guys. He did not look happy. Caleb was our school's golden boy, smart, handsome, and painfully aware of it. What's his problem? Probably jealous that you're the one getting a reaction from the Ice Queen. I heard he tried to talk to her before, and she totally shut him down." I snorted. "Him? What was he gonna do? Quote Shakespeare at her? The girl needs a laugh, not a lecture." When I got back to my seat, I saw Charlotte was looking at a sketchbook. It was thick, filled with black and white illustrations. I leaned over for a peek. You like to draw? She slammed the book shut like it had burned her fingers. They looked really good. I said honestly, way better than me. I can't even draw a circle that doesn't look like a potato. She didn't say anything, but she didn't put the sketchbook away either. That was a huge step forward. In physics that afternoon, the teacher was talking about resonant frequencies. An idea sparked. I leaned over and whispered, I think we're resonating right now. I talk, you listen. We're on the same wavelength. Her pen stopped moving, leaving a tiny dot of ink on the page. Right before the final bell, she slid a folded piece of paper on my desk. My hands were shaking as I carefully unfolded it. There were only 2 words on it. Thank you. The handwriting was neat, a little shaky, but written with care. I held the note like it was a royal decree. For what? I asked, completely floored. She just shook her head softly and started packing her bag. This time, I was the one who watched her leave the classroom first. Kevin wandered over. What's up? You look like you just won the lottery. I showed him the note. That's it? He asked, unimpressed. 2 words got you this happy. You don't get it. This is the leap from 0 to 1. It's a quantum breakthrough. On the way home, I kept thinking about those 2 words. Thank you. Thank me for what? For making her laugh? For my relentless stream of nonsense. Whatever it was a start. A very, very good start. The next morning, I went out of my way to buy a smoothie from that popular spot near the school. Got this for you, I said, placing it on her desk. Heard sweet things can boost your mood. She looked at the smoothie, hesitated, then gently shook her head. Not a smoothie person. I can get you a bubble tea tomorrow. She shook her head again. If you don't take it, I'm just going to stand here holding it, I said, going into full pest mode. I have no shame. I don't care if people stare. Finally, she reached out and took the cup. She didn't drink it, but she accepted it. I made a mental note. Progress point number 2, accepting gifts. During homeroom, I continued my one-man comedy show. Today's topic was my cat's greatest failures. When I got to the part about him trying to catch his reflection in the mirror and face planting into the wall, I heard a tiny chuckle from beside me. This time, it wasn't just a puff of air. It was a real, actual laugh. It was as light as a feather, but I heard it. I turned to look at her. She immediately pressed her lips together, but her eyes were still crinkling with a smile she couldn't quite hide. The morning sun streamed through the window, catching her profile and making the curve of her ear glow. In that moment, I thought this iceberg might actually be melting for real. Leo, what's wrong with you? Check out your tongue. Kevin waved a hand in front of my face, a look of pure shock on his. I opened my mouth, but the sound that came out was a broken, gravelly croak. Got a cold. Lost my voice. Oh my God, stop the presses. The class chatterbox has been silenced. I shot in my deadliest glare, which lost most of its effect. I glanced over at Charlotte. She still had her head down, but I noticed her pen was hovering over the paper for much longer than usual. This was bad. All the conversational momentum I'd built up, was it all going to be lost because I couldn't post my daily update? For the first time ever, I was completely silent during math. Even Mr. Davison did a double take. You feeling okay today, Foster? I managed to rasp out fine. The entire class turned to stare at me like I just sprouted a second head. Charlotte tilted her head slightly, her eyes flicking over to my flushed face. I slumped onto my desk, feeling like a fish out of water. I never realized how hard it was not to talk. It was worse than running a mile. Between classes, I tried to get up to get some water, and the room spun. A hand gently steadied my arm. I looked down and saw that Charlotte had stood up. She was looking at me with those clear, quiet eyes. I whispered hoarsely, I'm fine, just a little dizzy. She let go, hesitated for a second, then turned and went back to her seat. See, it was no use. I grabbed my water bottle, feeling a wave of disappointment. Just then, a small box was placed gently on my desk. Cough drops, my favorite brand, lemon flavor. I looked up in surprise and met her gaze just as she looked away. She bit her lip and said, in a voice so quiet it was almost a thought, loud. I froze, my brain short-circuiting. Did she just say I was loud? She finally spoke to me, and it was to call me loud. Kevin rushed over from his desk, slapping me on the back. Dude, she spoke. She said you're loud. His slaps sent me into a coughing fit, but I was grinning from ear to ear. Could you say that again? I asked carefully, worried I might have dreamed it. Charlotte was back in her seat, the tips of her ears glowing red. But she actually repeated it a little louder this time. "You're too loud." I clutched the box of cough drops and smiled like an absolute fool. "Yes, you're right. I'm loud. I'm super loud. And as soon as my voice is back, I'm going to be even louder just for you." She lowered her head, but I saw her lips twitch up by a single pixel. I spent the rest of the morning floating on a cloud. Caleb Vance walked past our desks, intentionally raising his voice. Some people just have no self-awareness, always bothering others. Normally, I would have fired back a comeback instantly, but I was in too good a mood to care. To my surprise, Charlotte lifted her head and shot Caleb a cold, sharp glare. It was a look I'd never seen from her before. Caleb visibly faltered, then skulked away. I excitedly scribbled a note to her. "Did you just defend my honor?" She glanced at it, but didn't reply. It didn't matter. I was on top of the world. During lunch, I popped one of the cough drops into my mouth. The cool lemon soothed my throat instantly. "Thanks for the lozenges," I rasped. "When I'm better, I owe you 3 days' worth of bad jokes." She shook her head gently and passed me another note. "You're welcome. Rest your voice." Her handwriting was much steadier this time. I treasured the note, tucking it safely into my pencil case. I'd probably frame it later. Kevin came over to gloat. "Look at you, Leo. A blessing in disguise. But what if she only likes you this way? You know, quiet." A jolt of alarm went through me. No, that couldn't be right. My voice was my core competency. That afternoon, I forced my voice to work at half power, continuing my monologue in a strained whisper. "So get this morning my cat." Halfway through the story, Charlotte gently placed her hand on my arm. Her skin was cool. The touch sent a little shock through both of us. She quickly pulled her hand back and gave me a look that clearly said, "Stop talking." I wrote on a piece of paper, "What's wrong?" She wrote back, "Do you want to have voice tomorrow?" I grinned like an idiot and wrote, "Are you worried about me?" She glanced at it, let out a tiny indignant huff, and turned away, ignoring me. But I knew she wasn't actually mad. When the final bell rang, she packed her bag much more slowly than usual, like she was waiting for me. I quickly shoved the last of my things into my backpack and followed her out of the classroom. At the turn in the staircase, she suddenly stopped and looked back at me. "Tomorrow," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Wear a mask." I just stood there, stunned, until her silhouette disappeared down the stairs. Kevin caught up from behind. "Did she just talk to you again?" I nodded dumbly. "What did she say?" "She told me to wear a mask tomorrow." I touched my ear, which was still burning hot, and broke into a grin. "She's worried about me." "It's over, man," Kevin said, taking 2 dramatic steps back. "You've completely lost it." Yeah, I had. And I had a feeling I was never getting it back. "Leo, red alert." Kevin sprinted into the classroom, grabbing my arm. "Caleb is trying to steal your girl." I was in the middle of telling Charlotte about how my cat chased its own tail until it got dizzy and passed out. She gave me a light shove. "Don't be dramatic," I said without looking back. "Can't you see I'm busy?" "I'm serious. I just saw Caleb in the hall reciting Shakespeare. He said he was going to discuss literature with Charlotte." That got my attention. Seriously? Someone was actually trying to move in on my territory. Sure enough, as soon as homeroom ended, Caleb sauntered over, a copy of Shakespeare's sonnets in his hand. "Charlotte," he began, striking what he clearly thought was a dashing pose. "Don't you find that life, like these poems, is a tapestry woven with both light and shadow?" Charlotte didn't even look up. Undeterred, Caleb continued, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate." I almost threw up my breakfast. What century was this guy living in? Did that line ever actually work for anyone? Charlotte calmly reached in her bag, pulled out a pair of earbuds, and put them in. That's right. She just tuned him out completely. Caleb's face went from confident to crimson. Behind him, Kevin was laughing so hard he was pounding his desk. The dollar store version never works, man. Can't even compete with the real thing. I fought to keep a straight face, saying loudly, "You know, some people have to copy other people's moves, but they just end up looking like a cheap knockoff." Caleb shot me a murderous look and stormed off. Only then did Charlotte take out her earbuds. She sighed softly. So loud, I immediately leaned closer. "Should I tone it down for you?" She glanced at me. "You're different." My heart did a little flip. I shot Kevin a triumphant look. "See? The difference between the original and the imitation." I thought that was the end of it, But another visitor showed up that afternoon. As I was packing my bag after school, a girl with a sharp bob cut blocked the doorway. "Leo, I'm Ashley, Charlotte's best friend." She crossed her arms. Her eyes narrowed. "We need to talk." "Ah, yes. The best friend interrogation chapter." I told Charlotte to go on ahead. She gave me a hesitant look. "It's fine," I said with a smile. "I'll just chat with Ashley for a minute." As soon as Charlotte was out of earshot, Ashley's expression hardened. "I'm warning you, stay away from her." "Why? You guys are all the same. You act all nice and charming. Then you break their heart and move on. Charlotte's just starting to get better. She can't handle you playing games with her." My own joking demeanor fell away. "Ashley, you've got all wrong." "Oh, really? Then what are you doing, following her around like a puppy all day?" "I just want her to know that the world isn't such a bad place," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "That at the very least, there's one loud, annoying guy in it who's happy to keep her company." Ashley was taken aback. She opened her mouth to argue, but her expression suddenly changed as she looked over my shoulder. I turned and saw Charlotte standing at the corner of the hallway. She must have come back. She was just watching me, her eyes filled with a complicated emotion I couldn't read. "Charlotte, Ashley stammered. Charlotte walked over and gently took Ashley's hand. "Ash, let's go." As she passed me, she paused for a fraction of a second and whispered, so low only I could hear, "See you tomorrow." Ashley stared at her, then back at me, and finally let out a defeated sigh. After they were gone, Kevin slunk out of the classroom. "Nice one, Leo. You even passed the best friend test." I watched Charlotte's retreating back, feeling ridiculously happy. "It's called sincerity conquers all." "Yeah, right? More like annoyance wears down all resistance." The next morning, I brought Charlotte a smoothie like usual. This time, when she took it, she whispered, "Thank you." I did a double take. "What did you say?" She ducked her head and bit the straw, her ears turning pink. Ashley walked past our row, gave a loud huff, but didn't say anything. During break, Caleb, ever the glutton for punishment, tried a new tactic. He came over holding a math textbook. "Charlotte, I'm having trouble with this problem. Could you help me out?" Without even glancing at the book, Charlotte pushed it across the desk to me. "Ask him." The look on Caleb's face was priceless. Fighting back a laugh, I put on a serious expression and studied the page. "You can't solve this? It's so simple. Caleb, you really need to work on your fundamentals." As he walked away in defeat, I leaned towards Charlotte. "Nice one." She smiled, a real, genuine smile. In that moment, I felt like every stupid joke, every one-sided conversation had been worth it. After school, Ashley was waiting for me again, but her attitude had completely changed. "Hey, Leo, what's up?" She handed me a slip of paper. "Charlotte likes this brand of bubble tea. Half sugar with pearls." I blinked, then took the note. "Thanks. Don't get the wrong idea," she said, turning her face away. "I just don't want to watch her pretend to like those stupid smoothies you bring her." I watched her walk away quickly and couldn't help but smile. It seemed the iceberg wasn't just melting. It was causing a thaw in the glaciers around it. Kevin leaned over to read the note. "Whoa, you converted the best friend." I carefully tucked the note into my pocket. "It's called The Righteous Find Many Allies." "Please." It's called Your Face is So Thick You've Worn Everyone Down." "Leo, come on, we're riding the coaster," Kevin yelled, waving from across the amusement park. I glanced at Charlotte, who was sitting by herself on a bench, and shook my head. "You guys go ahead." It was our senior class trip. Everyone was running around in groups, but she was just sitting quietly in a corner like a forgotten shadow. I went over and sat next to her. "That roller coaster looks terrifying. I'm afraid of heights." She gave me a look. She didn't say a word, but I felt like she could see right through me. Okay, you got me." I surrendered. "I just wanted to hang out with you." A small smile played on her lips. "Come on," I said, standing up. "I'll take you somewhere quiet." We followed a small path down to a river and sat on a large flat rock. The water was so clear you could see the little fish darting around. "See that tiny one?" I pointed. "He told me yesterday he wants to be the king of the ocean." Charlotte looked at me, confused. "Seriously," I said, my face a perfect mask of sincerity. "He's building an army of shrimp and crayfish. His first conquest is this river." She allowed a soft laugh. So I spent the entire afternoon making up the adventures of the ambitious little fish. I told her how he recruited seaweed as his chief strategist, convinced a frog to be his noble steed, and formed an alliance with the dragonflies for air support. She listened intently, occasionally asking, "And then what happened?" Sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling her face. She was smiling, her eyes curved into happy crescents. In that moment, I knew that no roller coaster or Ferris wheel could ever compare to this. On the bus ride back, everyone was exhausted and the bus was quiet. Charlotte had the window seat, and I sat next to her. Not long after we started moving, I felt a weight on my shoulder. She'd fallen asleep, her head resting gently against me. I froze, not daring to move a muscle. Kevin turned around from the seat in front of us and made a series of ridiculous faces. I mouthed the word jerk at him. He just grinned and turned back around. Watching her sleep so peacefully, I found myself wishing the ride would never end. But good times never last long enough. Before I knew it, it was the night of our senior prom. "Leo, get up there," the class president shouted from the stage. The whole grade started chanting, "Leo, Leo, Leo." I was shoved onto the stage and grabbed the mic. All right, I'll sing. But I'm warning you, my singing has been classified as a lethal weapon. The crowd roared with laughter. I deliberately chose the most obnoxious song I could think of and sang it completely off-key. Halfway through, I saw Charlotte in the crowd. She wasn't just smiling her usual faint smile. She was laughing, her eyes squeezed shut in delight. After the song, I held onto the mic. "While I'm up here, there's something I want to ask someone." The room fell silent. I looked right at Charlotte. "When I'm gone next year and there's no one around to annoy you all the time, are you going to miss it?" Every head in the room turned to follow my gaze. Charlotte slowly stood up. With everyone watching, she said, clearly and without hesitation, "Yes." She paused, a beautiful smile spreading across her face. "So, you'll just have to keep annoying me." Whoa! The entire room erupted. Kevin was whistling and cheering. Ashley was clapping wildly, and even Mr. Davison was shaking his head with a smile. Caleb Vance's face was stone. He turned and left the gym early. I jumped off the stage and ran over to Charlotte. So happy I didn't know what to say. She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling. "I'm holding you to that," I said, grinning. "No takebacks." "No takebacks," she whispered. After prom, we walked home together under the streetlights. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were so loud," she said suddenly. "And now," she stopped walking and looked at me seriously. "Now, I think the world would be incredibly boring without you being so loud." I looked at her, and she looked back at me. The lamppost stretched our shadows long behind us. "Charlotte, yeah, can I hold your hand?" She gently slipped her hand into mine. Her fingers were cool, but they felt warmer than anything I'd ever touched. "I'm going to keep telling you stories," I said. "I'll tell you stories until we're both old and all our teeth have fallen out." She laughed and squeezed my hand. "Okay, it's a deal. Leo, your phone's ringing." Kevin nudged me. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. "Hello, is this Leo Foster?" It was a woman's voice, warm and gentle. "This is Charlotte Hale's mother." My hand trembled. I almost dropped the phone. Here we go. The moment of truth. Hello, Mrs. Hale. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? I was hoping we could get some coffee. After I hung up, my mind was a complete blank. Kevin crowded me. "What's up?" "Who was that?" "Charlotte's mom," I said, taking a deep breath. "She wants to get coffee." "Oh man." Kevin jumped up. "The Rich Mom Summit. She's going to offer you the check." I couldn't sleep that night. I replayed every dramatic TV show confrontation I'd ever seen in my head. The next day, I dragged Kevin to the mall to buy a suit, but he just laughed at me. "Are you going to business negotiation or your own wedding?" I ended up in a simple white button-down, but I still spent half an hour fussing in front of the mirror. Kevin coached me. "Remember, no matter how much she offers, you have to act like money means nothing to you." I nodded seriously. If she slides a check at you, you slide it right back and say, "Our love is priceless." I kept nodding. "The most important thing is your attitude. Don't be a wimp." I took a deep breath. "Got it." At the coffee shop, the hostess led me to a quiet booth in the back. Charlotte's mom was younger than I expected, with an incredible sense of style. "Leo, right? Please sit." She smiled and poured me a cup of water. "Charlotte talks about you all the time." My palms were sweating. Here it comes. The calm before the storm. "Mrs. Hale, whatever you have to say, you can just say it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's nothing serious," she said gently. "I just wanted to thank you in person." Charlotte has changed so much recently, and it's all thanks to you. My brain went into autopilot, and the lines from all those TV shows came pouring out. Mrs. Hale, I understand. I cut her off, my voice full of tragic dignity. $5 million to leave your daughter, right? She froze, the coffee cup hovering in midair. The silence in the booth was deafening. I knew it. I thought triumphantly. I called it. Here comes the check. But then, Charlotte's mom started to laugh. Oh, honey, you've been watching too much television. Now it was my turn to be stunned. Why would I want you to leave her? She said, setting her cup down, her eyes soft. Seeing Charlotte smile and laugh again. I couldn't be more grateful to you. I just sat there with my mouth open, all my prepared speeches stuck in my throat. Actually, the reason I asked you here was to see if you would be willing to go abroad with Charlotte for college. My brain completely shut down. This was not in the script. Where was the check? Where was the dramatic family opposition? We're planning to send her to school in Europe, but she refuses to go alone, her mom sighed. If you'd be willing to go with her, we would cover all of your expenses. I stared at her, my mind a total blank. None of Kevin's emergency plans had prepared me for this. Of course, you don't have to answer now, she added, refilling my water. Talk it over with your parents. I nodded mechanically, still in a state of shock. $5 million? Is that all my daughter is worth to you? A man in a designer suit burst out from behind a decorative screen, his eyes red. He grabbed my shoulders. Who do you think you're insulting? I'll give you $10 million. You can never, ever leave her. I was officially broken. Mrs. Hale sighed, pressing her fingers to her forehead. Honey, you're scaring the poor boy. Mr. Hale wasn't listening. He was practically sobbing on my shoulder. You have no idea, the way she was before. It broke our hearts. Now she smiles. She argues with us. That's all because of you. I was paralyzed, my brain completely fried. This was so far from the script, we were in a different universe. Sir, if you could just calm down. I tried. How can I be calm? He blubbered, pulling out a silk handkerchief. You think my daughter's happiness is only worth $5 million? That's an insult to me. Mrs. Hale gave me an apologetic smile. Don't mind him. He's always like this. Ever since Charlotte started arguing with him again, he cries tears of joy almost every day. It was slowly starting to sink in. They weren't trying to break us up. They were trying to weld us together. Leo, my boy, Mr. Hale said, suddenly all business. He pulled a folder out of his briefcase. Here's a condo downtown. A little welcome to the family gift. I stared at the deed sitting on the table, my hands shaking. Sir, I can't accept this. Why not? He demanded, his eyes wide. Don't you want to be with Charlotte? Of course I do. But, no buts. He shoved the folder into my hands. If you don't take it, you're saying you don't respect me. I looked at Mrs. Hale, pleading for help. She just smiled and nodded. Please take it. It's the least we can do. Seeing Charlotte happy again means more to us than anything. I held the thick folder, feeling like I was in a dream. Kevin was pacing outside the coffee shop. He ran up as soon as he saw me. How'd it go? Did you hold your ground? Were you a pillar of moral strength? I silently held up the deed to the condo. Kevin's eyes bugged out. He leaned in, read it 3 times, then grabbed my shoulders and shook me. Oh my God, they're burying you in real estate. These are the greatest in-laws in human history. I felt dizzy. Kevin, I think I'm a kept man. This isn't being kept, he cried aghast. This is a love investment. The next day when I picked Charlotte up from school, she acted like nothing had happened. Your parents, did they say anything to you? I asked tentatively. They did, she said, her eyes twinkling. Mom told me if I ever hurt your feelings, she'd break my legs. I nearly tripped, and Dad said, she continued, stifling a laugh, that if I ever did anything to make you leave, he'd disown me. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. So, you're basically a protected national treasure in our house now, she said, tilting her head. Feeling the pressure? I took a deep breath and suddenly broke into a grin. Pressure? What pressure? I was born for this life. She laughed and punched my arm lightly. In your dreams. Just then, Ashley walked by and gave me a thumbs up. Nice work, Leo. Already got the parents on your side. Even Mr. Davison came over to pat me on the shoulder. Heard you and Charlotte are going to be studying abroad. You take good care of her. I stared at Charlotte in disbelief. What does our teacher know? She smiled. My parents came to the school yesterday to have a little chat with him. This was the most overpowered support team I'd ever seen. That night, I was staring at the condo deed on my desk when my mom knocked on the door. "Leo, honey, Charlotte's father just called." My stomach clenched. What did he say? He said, my mom's expression was a mix of confusion and awe. He said if we agreed to let you study abroad, they'll throw in a house in the suburbs. I almost fell out of my chair. This family's generosity was getting out of control. My dad peeked his head in. "Son, this whole kept man thing. Did our ancestors do something amazing to deserve this? Don't you guys start to?" I groaned, burying my head in my hands. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Charlotte. "Whatever they say, just do what you want to do." Reading her message, a sense of calm washed over me. It didn't matter what anyone else said, as long as she was on my side. I texted back, "Okay, I'll listen to you." Then I added another line, "except for the part about leaving you. I heard some people are just mooching their way to the top. It's embarrassing for the rest of us guys." Caleb said it loudly in the hallway, and his little group of friends snickered along. I was about to fire back, but Charlotte gently tugged on my sleeve. She stepped forward, looking at Caleb with a calm, steady gaze. "First," she said, her voice clear and cool, silencing the hallway chatter, "Leo's grades are good enough to get into any top university, with or without anyone's help." Caleb's jaw went slack, his face paling. "Second, a relationship is between two people. It's not for outsiders to comment on." Ashley clapped loudly from nearby. "Tell him." "And third," Charlotte said, lifting her chin slightly, "are you questioning my judgment, or are you just jealous that he's better than you?" Caleb was speechless. Under the stares of half the senior class, he turned and practically fled. I stared at Charlotte, dumbfounded. "When did you learn to talk like that?" She turned and winked at me. "You are who you hang out with. I learned from the best." After that, our relationship basically became a two-person comedy routine. "Leo, I dreamed last night that you were a recording device, and you just kept repeating one phrase. My girlfriend is the cutest person in the world." I laughed and started tickling her. "You're so full of yourself, even in your dreams." "I learned it from you," she squealed, dodging my fingers. Our whole dynamic had flipped. It used to be me talking for 10 minutes to get one word out of her. Now she was not only keeping up with my banter, but she was firing back jokes of her own. "I think they have a new chef for the sweet and sour pork in the cafeteria." "Why? Was it bad?" "No, it was too good. I think they're secretly giving me special treatment." She rolled her eyes. "Then you should be suspecting me. I just went to the kitchen and gave them a 5-star review on your behalf." I looked at her, shocked. "You're making jokes now?" "Learned it from you," she said, lifting her chin proudly. Even her pranks were getting better than mine. Yesterday, I opened my pencil case to find that every single one of my pens had been replaced with a bright pink one. She was trying to hold back a smile. "I just thought the color really suited you." I sighed and put the pink pens in my backpack. "All right, as long as you're happy." She leaned over and kissed my cheek, a reward for being a good sport. Suddenly, I felt like I'd use a pink backpack if she asked me to. We were walking home after school like always. "Leo, thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "Thank you for not giving up on me back then." She looked at me, her eyes shining. "And thank you for being so loud." I squeezed her hand. "And thank you for being willing to listen." She smiled and leaned her head on my shoulder. "You have to keep being loud for the rest of my life." The sunset stretched our shadows out behind us, as if trying to freeze the moment forever. Looking at her bright, happy smile, it suddenly occurred to me that in the process of healing her, I had also cured my own boring view of the world. The best kind of love, I realized, is when two people make each other better, and they do it while annoying each other happily for the rest of their lives. As we reached her front door, she said, "Oh, by the way, my parents want you to come over for dinner this weekend." "They're not going to try to give me anything else, are they?" She grinned slyly. "You never know. I heard they've already started looking at houses for us." I almost choked. When this family decided to spoil their son-in-law, they really didn't mess around.